Hello, I am Alex. If you are the first time you see my channel, I wish you to subscribe. The topic that I will talk to you about is one of the strangest and rarest topics. It is about a doll. Let's start. Robert, or Robert the Doll, or Robert the Haunted. A doll that belonged to painter and author Robert Eugenioto, and it is rumored that this doll is inhabited by evil spirits, and has a scary story. Legend has it that Robert the Doll resembles a U.S. Navy officer who lived at the beginning of the 20th century. However, the doll's hair was not made of human hair but was made of wool yarn. The story begins on Key West Island in Florida in 1904, in a luxurious home belonging to the family of an artist and author named Robert Eugenioto, or Jane as they used to call him when he was young, who was the only child of wealthy parents who used to entertain themselves by traveling. And during their long and frequent travels they left their son Jane alone under the care of an old nanny whose origins date back to the Bahamas. It is said that this old woman was experienced in voodoo magic based on exploiting evil spirits and harnessing jinn and goblins for the purpose of inflicting black curses on enemies and foes. The story tells that Robert's mother, in one of her tantrums, fired the old nanny for a trivial reason, but her son's strong attachment to his nanny forced her to slow down in firing her until the end of the month. The old nanny spent her last days at home, confined to her room. Rarely no one knows what she was doing in that retreat. Before leaving the house, she presented a doll that she made herself as a gift to Jane and named Robert after him. Soon Jane became attached to his new doll, dressed her in sailor's clothes and became inseparable even during his sleep. He spent most of his time playing with her and started talking to her, and it seemed normal for a child of his age, but his parents and the housemaids began to hear another voice with him in the room. They thought at first that Jane was changing his voice to speak on behalf of the doll Robert. It is normal for children to do when they talk to themselves. But the other voice was rougher than being a child's voice. Sometimes it was louder to turn into screaming, so the parents rushed to Jane's room to find him piled in the corner of the room while the doll Robert was sitting on the chair staring at him. They would ask Jane why he was screaming and he pointed to the doll and said angrily, "It's Robert." He started the fight first. As the days passed, strange things began to happen in the house. According to the novel the dishes began to fly from the tables and shatter on their own, the doors closed from the inside for no reason, books fell off the shelves and scattered on the floor as if a mysterious hand reached out to it and tampered with it. Jane's toys then began to be shattered, and his dolls were being torn apart and scattered around the house. Jane's parents, thinking that their son was doing these things, blamed him and abused him, pointing his finger at the doll and replying with disapproval, "It's Robert. He did it, not me." Jane's parents didn't believe that the doll was doing it, but many servants did, believing that the old nanny had actually poured one of her black curses on the doll to avenge the family, and some of them swore that they saw the doll Robert running at night between the rooms, and when they tried to catch him, he started climbing the walls and walking upside down on the ceiling, laughing and mocking them. They became terrified of him and avoided as much as possible entering Jane's playroom, especially at night. The strange sightings were not limited to the domestic servants, as the neighbors also talked about watching the doll Robert walk inside the house and move from one window to another while the family was outside. Things came to a head one night when Jane's parents rushed to his room after hearing him screaming and sobbing. They found him drowned under the room furniture that somehow all of it was piled on top of the bed. Jane was screaming in horror, "It's Robert. He wants to hurt me." At this time, Jane's parents were overwhelmed, and they tried to tear and burn the doll, but the servants warned them not to do so, lest the curse spread throughout the whole house. So Jane's father locked the doll in a small room in the attic of the house, locked the door on it and prevented everyone from approaching that room. After leaving the doll in the house, there were no strange things and the subject was ignored over time. In 1972 Jane finally died, so his wife sold the house, and the new owners decided to open the door of the attic room. They did not know anything about the story of the doll Robert. They found him sitting on a rocking chair opposite the window. They were surprised because he looked clean even though everything in the room was covered with dust. Unfortunately for them, They had a 10-year-old daughter who soon became attached to the doll as soon as she saw it for the first time and decided to keep it. Once again, events and strange things reared her head again around the house. The girl started screaming and sobbing at night. Her family was rushing to her and telling them that she saw the doll moving and wandering around the room and jumping over the furniture, and on one occasion the girl swore that the doll attacked her and tried to harm her. In the end, the doll Robert ended up in one of the American museums, Fort East Martello Museum, but the doll's quarrels did not end. So soon the workers and employees of the museum began to talk about strange things that happened during the night, and it was said that some guards saw the doll wandering around the museum at night. So the museum management decided to put Robert inside a glass cage, where he is still languishing there to this day, visited by many tourists to see his strange story and to take pictures of him cautiously. Legend has it that Robert must first politely take permission before taking any photograph of him, and if he refuses to do so by tilting his head slightly backwards, the tourist or visitor should avoid taking the picture so as not to be struck by an inescapable evil curse. And here we got to the end. I hope you like it. See you in a new and exciting story.